we have not received any public comment on
Okay.
items related to this committee via email either.
Okay. Any conflicts of interest?
No.
Okay. Anybody have any jacks? That was a joke. Okay, onward. So on the agenda, the planning department report was last. Often we have it first. Any preference? Carrie?
No, but I could, I can do it first, and that
How about we
way,
do that first, and then maybe
sure.
Jen will get here.
Sure.
Thank you.
Let's see. So a few items from our last meeting. The city council did do budget revisions, and they have there weren't any changes for the public art fund or for the park budgets related to the sculpture garden. That is all approved, and I don't anticipate. I do anticipate the council will be doing what they typically do mid-year around January, February. We anticipate they will be doing that. So 3 different budget hearings in 1 year, but it is certainly extraordinary circumstances and trying to understand sales tax revenues and things like that during this time of COVID. But I don't anticipate any changes to the items affecting this group. They did approve the additional $2,000 for from the council's budget for COVID artist support. I think I had sent out an email about that earlier this month. And they approved the capital improvement plan with some minor modifications, mostly related to streets and slurry seals and street repairs. The other big news is we do have Caltrans approval to do parklets. So we'll be doing, looks like 4 of them in downtown area, 1 by Screaming Mimi's, 1 down by Retrograde, 1 just south of McKinley by the Cookie Company. And
Sorry, by the what company?
The Cookie Company.
Okay.
And 1 down by Sagestone. And so we're having a meeting with the business owners to coordinate that tomorrow, but it looks like they will be installed in a couple weeks' time. We'll have the materials, the barricades and the pieces, the K-rails to actually make them.
Excuse me, Carrie, can you remind the approximate size? Do they range depending on the location of each parklet?
They're generally the same. The one in front of Screaming Mimi's is probably the one that's a little bit different. If you think about that, there's that island for pedestrians, and then there's a west-only drive aisle in front of Screaming Mimi's to get onto Highway 12 from Depot Street. And so for that one, that would be closed to make the parklet.
I see.
So that's a little unusual, and that's the drive aisle being closed. The others are about 2 or so parking spaces wide, or long by the width of the parking space. So they won't go into the drive aisle at all, but they'll.
So the parking that existed right in front of Screaming Mimi's will no longer be there.
Correct. Yeah, that one will take both the parking and that drive aisle. Exactly.
And where do they expect the extra parking to go? In the back there, I guess. Yeah,
so there is parking on Weeks Way in the plaza, or
okay.
along the streets and on Depot Street and further down on.
Carrie, how did you get that? How did you get that through Caltrans?
Well, we have actually been working for it on months. The engineering department and council sent a letter to the governor asking for some help with that. Caltrans has some pretty particular rules around them. We actually heard Saratoga had received approval for it. And so we asked them for their application and kind of emulated that in terms of trying to get it. The current approval is only through February, but we will be asking for an extension, to that permit. I think it's interesting because we sent a letter to the governor, and then the I actually sent it to the city of Sonoma. They sent a similar letter because they're struggling with the same issue. And when we got our parklet approved, they heard about it and we were asking for our application so they could emulate ours as well. But a couple weeks after we got approval, it did come out that Governor Newsom has basically directed Caltrans to be a little bit more lenient and working with communities during this time to approve the parklets and whatnot. So whether it was us they heard or the general consensus of people who are struggling, communities that have Caltrans as their main roads, struggling with it, I'm not sure. So it wasn't easy, Warren is, but we did get there.
Can I make a comment about that?
Sure.
So I said this at our last design review board meeting, but I think it's really important for everyone to know that Paul Fritz, who's a local architect and a planning commission member, is the one who really made this happen, from everything I understand. So the city of Sebastopol was trying in their way to get Caltrans approval, but not really getting anywhere, and no thanks to the engineering department. And Paul did a very simple Google search, parklets and Caltrans right of way, and found that Saratoga had the same situation and had gotten approval from Caltrans within a matter of like 4 days. And it was, to me, very disappointing that, you know, that our city staff in the engineering department was not actually very proactive in making this happen. But it took a volunteer member who was very passionate about this to do the research and find out it isn't that hard to do. So I have to applaud Paul for his efforts to make this happen.
And what is his last name?
Fritz.
Fritz. Thank you.
Thanks, Lars, for sharing that.
Yeah.
Yeah, and there still are some hurdles to be worked through, which is why we're having the meeting with business owners. But yes, it's Paul has been a great help. He also did the design, you know, sort of the layout of what we needed to submit, which is great.
Yeah. Yeah, and I was part of a group. We did a version of this, just a day-long event where in these very same sites, including the Screaming Mimi site, we did a parklet, and that whole became a little plaza basically in front of Screaming Mimi's, and it was very successful like 4 or 5 years ago.
I'd like to ask, is there any way we can help Jen, or what's happening?
I do not see anything from her in terms of a reply. So
Yeah, I didn't get any email.
I can try texting her just to make sure. Sometimes people aren't on their emails, but they are on their
Okay.
Phones.
Okay. Should we go on? So I suggest that we wait on this discussion of the support for the artists, and hopefully we will get Jen. So we could go on to.
Yeah, I think we might actually be able to do that item now if that's okay. I can give an update, and we have received 3 applications, but we've only received 3 applications. So I did talk with Jen, and one of the thoughts was to wait until December to hold the lottery so we can do some additional outreach and remind folks. And so I'll bring that up as a suggestion. You can certainly wait until she's here if she does make it to the meeting.
Okay, so since you started on it, I'll just say, I also agreed to reschedule till December. My thought is to not reschedule after that, to not drag it out. And so whatever we have at that point, we will use. And the question was why? We thought, you know, everyone we spoke to said, well, there are a lot of artists really in need. This is great, and so on. And why do we have so few? So I spoke with Terry Sloat just to get her perspective, and Jen got in touch with Catherine at the Art Center, and there was and she sent me a copy of that email reply from Catherine. I just would say from Terry's perspective that she thought there was a lot of distraction for everything that's going on right now. And that hopefully, if we do put it through to December, some of that will settle down. The other thing she said was that the people she had spoken to, the ones that were in great need did not reside in Sebastopol. So the residents in Sebastopol was something that affected things.
Were they in the zip code? Because if
No,
they're within
no,
the
no,
zip
they-
code, that's okay
Right.
too.
No,
Okay.
either they didn't live in Sebastopol. One of them had moved to, I think, Rohnert Park because of lost their housing, I think. So I don't know what else we can do, and if anybody has any suggestion to get more applicants. So there were 3. We could determine to save some. I don't think we should or can do anything with the allotted funds besides use them for what we said they were for. But any suggestions or comments in terms of how we might get more applicants or anything else?
I just wanted to say my initial response to that is because of the time that we've taken. If we only end up with the 3 applicants and they all pass muster, so to speak, then they should be considered. Perhaps some of the money is saved and moved to the next time that perhaps if we consider doing this again, maybe in the spring or summer. But because of everything we've done so far in promoting it, I would, at this point in time anyway, until I hear more information, I think we should carry on with it.
Okay. You had put in, and we included it in our proposal, Jeff, that if we didn't get whatever number we got would be divided up.
Yes.
That was in the proposal. So it did not allow or speak at all about putting it off or even deciding whether those people should get it. That whatever number, if it's 8 or less, the money is to be divided.
So I
Okay.
would like to,
Yeah.
I would like to state that I think you should divide it up, give it to people in this great time of need, and move on.
I would agree. Yeah, thanks.
Mhm.
Any other comments? Okay, so what are the logistics for rescheduling for December? We need to communicate with
postpone it?
Catherine. What?
Why postpone it? Do it today. There's 3 people. You don't need to have a lottery. There's no lottery, 3 people. There's $2,000.
Okay, I would need to check in with Jen because she's on the subcommittee on that. I think that would be appropriate though.
Yeah, and just to be clear, there's actually $4,000. So there's maybe a couple of different ways you could handle it. You could certainly, in terms of, you could delay it till December. You could award $500 now to each of those. That was the original intent. That would help those artists. See if you get additional people that you can help in December. And if you don't, then you could still, for those 3 people, grant them the additional money at that time. Or you could delay it all to December. So those seem to be the options.
Okay, thank you.
So I'd like to make a motion that we postpone the drawing or the announcement of the lottery winners another month to our December meeting, and hopefully within that time we may receive some additional applicants.
Okay, any discussion on that?
I would object to that. I think you should get it done today. This is coming up on holiday season. People can use the money. If they can use the money, let's give it to them now. And I would move that we give it to
So,
them.
okay, hold on, Warren, before you make a motion, there's a motion on the table.
Well,
So
vote
we
on the
need to,
first one.
no, that's fine. We need to see if there's a second for Jeff's motion first, just so we don't get confused again. Is there a second for Jeff's motion, which is to delay the whole process to December?
Mhm.
Okay, so seeing none, I think that's a failed motion.
Before we have
Warren-
another, I just want a complete discussion before we have more motions.
Yeah.
And I would like to say, I liked also Carrie's idea, Warren, to consider this of giving the $500 now to all three, and in December, see if there is anyone else. And if not, give them the additional amount. Or if there are additional people, then what? Then we either.
You're basically
Yeah.
making a motion to that effect, right?
No, I'm discussing it. I'm saying, I'm not making a motion. I'm
Okay.
saying, let's talk
All right.
first before we make a motion. So we have maybe one motion that we all agree on.
Mhm.
So
Or at least
I
clear
agree.
as to what that motion might mean. So Margie, I think you're asking the question, if you did $500 to each of them now, that'd be
Yeah.
$1,500, you would still have $2,500 left. That would carry to December.
mhm.
And so your question was, if in December there are no additional
No, that would be clear.
applicants,
That'd be clear. But
then
if
just
there
split
are
it between
additional-
those three.
But if there are additional in December, then, our choices would be just divvy up what's left if if there's just a few people, or divvy it up again, adding those three, or what? So that's what I'm
I
asking.
would, yeah, so I would suggest, given the intent and the way it's written, if you award the three now, you have $2,500 remaining. That's 5 awards at $500. If you get more than that, then do a lottery to see who those 5 would be, and it's the $500. If you get, say, 3 additional people, then you would just distribute to all 6 people, if it's whatever that math works out to. If that's $650 each or so. So you would give the 3 people who probably are in need. They've already submitted, they saw it, and they have asked for assistance. They're not being punished by only getting $500 when everyone else is going to get $700, at the end. And that would, to me, be fair, is to either split it equally among all of the applicants, the ones we have and any future, or if it's more than what would give you $500 per, do a lottery for the remaining.
Is that clear to anyone?
Does that make sense? No one would get less than $500, but if it's split evenly because there aren't more people, everyone, including the applicants we already have, would get the same amount.
So I wanted to make a comment about that, but I was kind of waiting to see if the motion had a second.
Well, I'm not making a motion. I'd like us to have one motion that we would all agree on, hopefully.
Okay, so my feelings about that are that the way we wrote the document was that we would have a lottery, and the lottery implies that all the applicants would have an equal opportunity to be drawn from, in this case, the bingo wheel, so that they would all have access to the same amount of award money. My fears are that if we go ahead and award the $500 per these 3 now, and then we allow other applicants to continue to submit, that there could be potentially some, issues or disagreement around those new applicants. We don't know how many there would be. Maybe there would be none. Maybe there'd only be 1. But anyway, that there could be some disagreement over the amount of money that those new applicants would receive. If that wasn't too complicated.
I think that's what Carrie was trying to address. So everybody gets 500 if we have that many people, but we start with 500 for those who've already applied, they'll get more equal to other people. So they're not going to get less if based on the new group.
Right. And I understand that. So here's my scenario though. If we award the three $500 now, which would be $1,500, leaving $2,500, is that correct?
Yeah.
And then we end up with another 6+ candidates. Perhaps that won't happen. But if we did, then those 6+ candidates would get less than $500, and we might not deem it to be, an equal award.
It is awkward.
Well, or that's where the lottery comes in. If we get
Right.
more than the number of 500 per person, then it's a lottery.
Correct.
Then it's a lottery but if those three, then
Well,
they're
let's put
not
it-
in the lottery.
Let's put it this way. You could have 2 lotteries. Think of it this way. You have a lottery today and you're going to choose up to 5 or up to
You can win up to 5.
whatever. Eight. We had 8 awards of 500. So you can choose up to 8. Well, if you had 3 people and you did a lottery today and you would choose all 3 of them, you have 5 slips remaining. Those are what's being moved to December. So, Committee Member Stricker, I understand your concern about the fairness and it being a lottery. The call also did have a deadline of Monday.
Yeah.
So is that fair to them or not from that other perspective? And that's for the committee to discuss. I don't have
Okay,
any
so
forces in this
It
race.
seems to me then we can choose between 2 things. That makes sense. One is to just take these 3 people and divide up the $4,000 among them. That's one. 2 is, as Carrie's saying, have 2 lotteries. Each of the 3 people now get 500. And in December, we have a second lottery with whomever applies. If there are 5 people that apply, they each get 500. If there are more than 5, 6 or more, then there's another lottery, and the winners of that lottery get 5 each. But the 3 people that we give 500 to today do not participate in that lottery. So
Correct.
that
Their names
everyone,
are
no one
essentially
gets
already
more than
drawn.
500.
Right.
And some people may not get it depending on how many we have in December. So that's option 1 and option 2. Is that clear? And do people agree on that?
If there's only 2 people next time, then
Yes.
they each get $1,250.
Good question.
What I was suggesting is that you would just take the total of this month and next month, so that's 5, and divide the 4,000 by 5.
Yeah.
Okay.
So you
that
get
would-
some
that would
additional
be-
funding, and that's the way if we were doing it all on Monday, that's how it would be done.
Okay. Any other?
Lars, did you have a different take on that or a different suggestion?
No. The only question I have is if we are adding this other month, is it republicized, or are we just waiting for people to look at their email from last month?
No, we definitely would get Catherine to resend.
Okay.
And I just wanted to comment about Warren's concern about the holidays. Since we would be postponing it to our next meeting, which would be I think December 2nd, very first week of December, I would still feel that's early enough in the holiday season to benefit people.
Okay. Warren, any comment?
Is it time for a motion?
Yes.
Yes.
I would like to move that we give out the 3 candidates $500 each, so we have a second lottery that is publicized in December, and give out $500 to however many. If there are more than the $2,500 to give out, we have a lottery then. And if it we don't have the people, maybe we return the money, but let's just do the 2 lotteries. The one today, which is already the 3 people, and the one in December, which gets publicized.
Yeah.
Warren, could you amend it possibly and say if there are less than 5 new people, that we equally distribute what
No,
would have been the
because-
total?
No, I think that you should be equal, give out equal amounts at each time. So
No.
that some-
Yeah, what I'm saying, Warren,
No.
is if we have $2,500 and there are 4 people,
Yes,
that-
you give out 2,000.
and then what happens with the other 500?
It stays in goes back to the city or stays with our committee.
Mhm.
This
Right, so there's nothing
2,000
that, he's saying there's nothing that says you have to utilize all of the money.
Right.
Ah, okay. Any comment on that?
I want to be equal to all people.
Yeah, I think that's straightforward. Makes sense.
It would be equal, but it wouldn't be, it could be more than the 500 if there's less than 4 people, but the way you have it, it won't be.
Yes, that's the way I have it. You
Okay.
give 500 to each person who is applies in it. If we have to have a lottery in December, then it goes to the number of people we have.
So
But
if we
only
don't,
500.
yeah. So if we have like 2 people or 1 or
That's-
none, then the
that's
rest of the
1,000.
money,
That's $1,000. The people that apply now shouldn't have less. Or
No,
it
no,
should
no,
be
but
equal.
they could
No,
have
it should
more.
be equal. It should be equal all times.
I got that, but then what if the difference would be either whatever money is left goes back into a different pot, or whatever is money left goes equally to everyone who has applied?
Then you go back and give some more to other people that.
Yes,
Oh, that's fine. I don't, as long as it's always equal.
yes, that's what I'm saying.
Okay.
So that's the difference to what you were suggesting. You were
Well-
suggesting that if there's extra goes back into a pot. I'm saying, can we shift just that
Yeah,
part
yeah.
of it and say, if there's extra, it goes equally?
If you want to write that up, I think it's easier to do it the way I said it. And then if you have some left over, put it back into the pot, maybe have another third go around next year. Okay,
So it sounds like,
That's my
Warren-
motion.
Warren, you want to leave your motion as is.
yes, I do. Thank
Okay, is there, Margie, can you call and see if there's a second?
Is there a second?
I'll second that.
All right. And we'll do a roll call vote. Committee member Strecker,
Nay.
committee member Langberg,
Aye.
committee member Arnold,
Yes,
and Vice Chair Mills Dyson.
Nay.
Okay, a tie vote is a failed motion.
So I have another proposal.
Can you entertain additional motions?
My new proposal is just like Warren's, except the third part of it is, if there's extra money, it is divided equally to all entrants, including the ones that we're giving money to today.
I'll second that motion.
All right. So there's a motion and a second. We'll do the vote again. Committee member Strucker,
Aye.
committee member Langberg,
Aye.
committee member Arnold,
aye.
and Vice Chair Mills Leeson.
Aye.
All right, we have a 4-0 vote, and so I will go ahead and I get the names from our senior admin aide, and we can announce those later on in the meeting.
Excellent. And then announce that we'll have a second one in December.
Correct.
Yes.
I just want to say that I just wanted to have a tie vote, so kind of in the spirit of the elections going on right now.
Thanks, Laura. Sounds great.
Yeah, it felt good to say nay.
Okay, onward. Can we
By the
talk
way-
about the sculpture garden? Because we always get it at last and then it only has 5 minutes.
I just
Well,
wanted
here's the thing, you're the chair, so you can rearrange the agenda.
Okay.
to
Yes, Jeff.
quickly just say congratulations to the committee. I think that's a real proactive thing. that Jan and Margie brought up initially for struggling artists, and that we carried it through. I think it's a wonderful thing.
Yeah,
Thank you. It feels good.
yeah.
Thank you. Okay. So we'll go on to the sculpture garden. There's not a whole lot, but I'll just report that. One, Warren sent some suggestions and comments on the wording, and I incorporated some of that, and I have a question on a couple of them, which I will mention. And Carrie, I wanted to add links or attachments of the site plan. Can you send these so we can put them on, or let me know otherwise? And you mentioned the ADA safety standards. So I think artists should know what that is.
Yeah, I don't know if there are any, where did I mention that? I don't think there are
You
any.
mentioned it in your
requirements for that.
reply to our questions about what paperwork and criteria artists would have to take care of.
All right, I apologize if I did. I'm not sure what the context of that was. I don't think there are any,
Okay.
you know, there will be set up from the pathway. The pathway is being, or will be rebuilt as an ADA compliant pathway. There isn't just like any sort of grassy area that's part of the park. It will be accessible by the fact that you can look at the sculptures from the accessible pathway. Just like other parts of the park, you're not required to have the hill or a grassy knoll be ADA accessible.
Okay, I'm trying to find where you mentioned it, but maybe we can communicate through email if I can find it and see if that is something that artists need to be aware of and to consider.
Well, it's
Okay.
it's in the category of durability, maintenance, and safety.
Right, but the point that I think Warren brought up was to give the artists the information of what they're going to have to cover in advance rather than afterwards.
Uh-huh.
So that's trying to do that. I don't have the mention here. I'll find it. Is that okay if we see about including that or not including that by email? Is that all right?
Yeah, I think that's fine.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. And then and Carrie had mentioned about, here it is. Okay, so she said that we need agreement with the county in place, since many of the sculptures will, or several, I don't think there were many, would technically be on their land. And they are struggling right now with the.
Yeah, Margie, I
estate-
can just give a verbal update of that.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
That's fine. So I have reached out to the county. It's their real estate division that for the agreement that we need to be able to have the sculptures up. Sort of once you go up on that knoll area, the property line changes in its county land. They, I think I mentioned a while back, June or so, we Dante and I from Public Works met with them, and they were very open to the idea of a sculpture park and including their land, but we do need an agreement in place for the use of that land, and that's something that staff needs to work out with them. They are, so I've sent them a couple of emails since trying to get that ball rolling. I do know that there were some county buildings that were damaged in the fires, and I suspect they are quite distracted by that. There was some area by Los Skilicos and some county facilities, park facilities that were damaged. Their sign shop actually was damaged. So they do have a number of things that they're dealing with from the latest fire. I am hoping to get in touch with them soon though and get that worked out. But it does need to be in place before
Right.
it proceeds.
Okay. So then Carrie said that she would anticipate a winter call for spring installation. That was her idea, which given the county situation and others, that made sense to me. Warren added images of the Cloverdale Trail, which are very nice and kind of inspiring. So I don't know whether everyone got that. Everyone, Jeff and Lars, did you get that link?
I didn't see. No.
I didn't see it either.
Okay, well, maybe you could just get that to you because it's nice to see. So given all that, so my idea then is I would like to get the call for proposals in a form that we can vote on and approve so that we are ready to send it out in the winter. And then the dates we need to fill in. And I want to just go over, ask Warren a couple of things that I wasn't sure about from his comments. He said on page 4, for the pedestals, please put in the number. I'm not sure where that is on page 4. And Carrie, do we have a number for the number of pedestals?
It's to add to that. How many
Yes.
pedestals?
Where in the,
Just say 6 pedestals.
We have,
yeah, I understand that. I just didn't find it in the page, that's all.
well, the selection process says we will select 8 to 12 sites
Ah, thank you.
for sculpture.
So you want the actual number in instead?
6 pedestals, 12 side, whatever it is.
Okay,
And I believe when we did the layout, it was working, I think the layout had eight sculpture pads. And then that didn't include anything on the other side of the trail. And I think there was a thought that it might be nice if there was something that didn't require a base.
Right.
That those could also be considered. And I think that's where the range comes in.
how many pads do we have? How many
8.
sculpture?
Eight
Eight,
is
okay.
what the plan is for, yeah.
Okay, so we have 8. So, so we could say we have 8 pads plus space for an additional what?
4.
4? Carrie, is that realistic? Is that sound good?
I don't know. That would be up to the committee that's done the layout, and I know you guys all did a lot of work on the layout, but so it's up to, I'm not sure what your thoughts are on it.
Okay, but if we said yes, 4 is good, then that would be okay with the city.
Sure.
Assuming
And I
we
think
get, assuming
I
we
would,
get,
and I might say up to 4. That way you can look at what you get in response and make a determination. You know, it may sculptures can be a lot of different sizes. So if one is the size of what you would normally have 2 sculptures in, or there's not going to be appropriate spacing, that allows you all to curate in your selection.
okay. So saying 8 pads and up to 4 spaces. Warren, does that
Yes.
okay with you? Okay, thank you. And then on page 4, I have a question, which is the number of copies, submission requirements. Your submission should include the number of copies following provided in the order list. How many copies are we going to ask for?
I don't think I commented on that.
No, you didn't. That's mine, because I don't
Okay.
have the number of copies, and I'm asking Carrie.
So it should either be the same as what we had for the library sculpture. I think you had that RFP. So I would check that. But I would think you would at least want 5 for the committee plus 3 additional. So that we can write it to, Public Works and Building, and staff has a copy.
So we're going to ask the artists to include 8 copies of their submission rather than the city make them, right?
Well, I think that's the suggestion, yeah.
Why not just do a virtual copy that we all get? That just gets distributed.
We
PDF.
can do that as well. Some people like to have things, and you know this, Lars, some people like to have the drawings so they can mark them up. Some people are fine with them on a PDF. I don't, I guess I would turn it around and ask what's the committee's, you are the group that is going to be looking at them, what is your preference?
Well, so I think it's a little bit of an old-fashioned thing, like that. Like if I submit drawings for the planning commission, it used to be, you need 8 copies of this and 3 reduced size and blah blah. But we don't do that anymore. As far as the submission is electronic, so to me it should all just be we just asking for an electronic submission from the artist, and then it comes to the city. And the city can, or we as a committee or through Carrie can say, who needs a printed copy, right? Or go, right? I think that's how we're doing it now, like with DRB, like, does anybody want a paper copy? But
Okay,
to
is
think
there-
that the city-
That would
are-
be fine.
Yeah. I don't-
Is there a possibility that we need to include that an artist may not be able to send an electronic, or is that moot at this point in time? That if they can't send electronic, they should send a paper hard copy? Is that not in the realm of possibility, or yes? What do you think?
I think I mean, and maybe there is somebody out there, but it's so rare that somebody is, not just putting forward an electronic version of anything.
Okay, Warren, any comment on that?
I agree. Go
Okay,
for the
fine.
electronic.
Okay, electronic then, so we won't, your submission should be sent electronically. Okay?
Okay.
And provide in the order listed. Okay, good. So, thank you.
And I will, if I may, I will note that we often get the question, can I submit paper? And what we have done as a department is, we don't want to exclude people just because they aren't computer savvy. We would take their application and then we would scan it. I mean, that's what we do with DRB when, applicants submit something paper. You see it electronically, but it's because we've scanned it. I do like the preference of, and it's certainly more sustainable rather than I'm looking at the art library RFP, which had 7 copies that we required, to just say, hey, electronic only is fine. We're certainly doing that with other than very complicated projects where you need to be able to look at multiple pages.
Okay, good. Thank
yeah.
you.
Could I make a comment?
Yes. Yes.
So I understand that a part of the goal with the sculpture garden is to have as many different artists and or artist groups represented as possible. But I also feel that it would be important for the PAC to have some flexibility. So when I look under the section that says selection process, under selection process, the second item, which states no artist will have more than 1 piece selected for this project. There's always the possibility that we don't get as many applicants or submissions as we might like to have for the garden. So I would propose adding on to that, unless determined otherwise by the PAC. That way, if we get more than 1 piece from an artist and they're different and we like them both and we don't have enough total, that gives us the flexibility to add 2 or more from the same artist.
Okay. Any discussion? I'll add it unless there's other discussion of disagreement.
Well, that does bring up a point that I have made to Margie, and that is, I think someone, and Margie's not going to do this, is reach out to the people or the institutions we would like to have show and see if they're available, open, etc. See if the junior college could do that. See if the JC can do that, etc. Explain the project and see if they are actually open for business and have people that could show.
Mhm. I think that's a good point, Warren. What came up for me related to that, just reading this through again, was it's almost like 2 documents in one to me. It's like a call for entries, which is much more specific, and obviously we'd add dates and stuff, but it's also like a press release. So in a way, we could do just a one-page or version of this, which is mostly some of the intent, the objectives, right? And the City of Sebastopol is, realizing this part of the Ives Park master plan to come up with the sculpture garden, boom, 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 here it is, and put that out to the world without we're not asking for any specific submissions in response. And then we come forward when we're ready in terms of timing of the spring or whatever, like RFP, much more specific, that kind of thing. Like right now, it feels like a kind of broad document that's trying to do a lot, which to me makes it less clear.
So you're suggesting two documents, one that is the actual call for proposals, and a second, which is a information press release.
Yeah, and it's reversed in the order you just said, but yes. Like we're
Right,
not
because
gonna-
the press
we're not
release
gonna-
would be the summary.
Yeah, press release is a summary. This is kind of a summary of what the committee has been doing along these lines, and put that out. I mean, we have Holly Hansen is the communications director of the city. She knows exactly what that should look like and where it should go. She can help us with it, and that could go out next month or whatever. And then when we're ready, it's already out in the world. People have heard about this, and now look, we're coming up. Here's our first call for submissions.
Then the press release, I would think, would need to say where interested artists can find the call. And perhaps have the call either ready to be posted or posted before sending out the release.
There
Or at
might
the
actually
same
be two
time.
different ways of doing this. I mean, you've seen the save the dates that people use before they're able to, before they have the full details of an event. So you could certainly we can have Holly do a news article saying coming soon or whatever, and have any interested people email planning staff so that we'll send them the RFP when it is, or the call when it is available. And then do another press release when the call is actually available. Thoughts
So-
on that?
I still would add the third element of personally reaching out to the Petaluma Art Association, to the Cloverdale Sculpture Trail, and find out if they would have an interest in participating. Just a verbal call to those people. You can get a lot more done by personal contact than a press release.
Could you do one or two of those, Warren?
Pardon?
Could you do one or two of those?
No, I'm not going to do any. I'm just a suggester.
So this does actually bring up one item which we can talk about later, which is potentially, Murphy, this is the PAC expansion that we talked about at council, and the idea, and we talked about this group about how could you utilize volunteers to help, and this may be an area where that may a good way of engaging folks.
I'll volunteer to call.
Jeff, was that Jeff?
Yeah, I would volunteer to contact
Thank
as many of those on that list under eligibility. If there are others, then people should let me know who they are. And also, if anyone has any contact names and their phone numbers, in case I'm not able to find them.
Thank you. And I just want to note that of the ones that Warren listed that I included on this, there were 6. You just added 1, which is 7, the Petaluma Art. And that we have, now we're talking about a total of possibly 12 sites. So I think it's important to leave some open to anyone else, that so that it's not specifically, it doesn't have to be necessarily one from each of these, but if they each sent one or more than one, I don't know what just happened.
I think Lars is
Here.
having some technical
Oh,
difficulties.
okay.
Alan, can you mute Lars? Like, oh, there, he just dropped off.
Yeah, so I think it's good to include these. I don't, and then part of it would also depend on their response. Yeah, okay, so those, so to add the Petaluma
Well,
Art
I mean,
Council, Mo?
already
I think it's on the list already.
It is
No,
on
it
Petaluma
is?
Art Center.
Oh, I beg your pardon, it is. Sorry, I didn't see it. Yes, okay, thank you. Okay, good. Well, thank you, Jeff. So I would like to get the call form complete so that we could do a press release. And I need to draw from that and summarize that. So-
Margie, on that,
yeah.
I think I do want to make sure I at least hear back from the county before doing a
Yes.
press release. Because I think,
Yes,
you know, things get out of order, that becomes a lot more complicated.
Okay.
We certainly have their verbal, yes, this is a good idea and we're willing to work with you, but it would be, you know, if they want the city to put up a $10 million insurance policy, there's, you know, I want to at least see what their agreement's going to be and make sure it's
Okay,
it's
so I would-
feasible before we.
got it. Yeah, that's good. So I would like to request that in our December meeting that we could vote on and hopefully hear back from the county by then and vote on and approve the call and a press release so that we can go to the next step.
I think
So-
that seems reasonable, and I'm not sure this group, you know, if you want to write the press release, you can do that as well. Otherwise, as Lars mentioned, we do have Holly Hansen, who works on press releases and things like that for the city, and we can have perhaps Margie, you'd be the best person to coordinate. You know, you and I can coordinate with her for a press release, but it doesn't need to be done by committee necessarily.
Okay, yeah,
I
fine.
think the call is the important part for this committee to be comfortable with.
Okay. So maybe before the December meeting, I can get in touch with Holly, have her make a form, see if there's anything that needs to be added or shifted on it, and then have that ready also in December.
Yeah, why don't you and I coordinate offline
Yes,
on that?
yes,
'Cause that's-
yes,
yeah,
okay.
Okay.
All right. So does that sound okay to people that in December we would vote and get
Yeah.
those two to move on?
And I'll set a
Yes.
goal to contact as many of those groups
Yes,
as possible before the next meeting.
yes, thank you,
Right.
Jeff.
And one person, and Jeff, I'm happy to put you in contact with them, that might be helpful is Michael McGinnis, our artist for the library, since he teaches at Santa Rosa Junior College in the sculpture department. He may be a very good way of, you know, getting that out to his students and the group there.
Okay, thank
So I've
you.
got one contact for you, Jeff. I'm not really in the art world, but I got one contact for you.
That's a start.
Well, 3 of them will be for the art center with Catherine. Sculpture Jam is Beth Hartman. And she runs the Art at the Source and Open Studios program, which is, as you know, closed down now. There is a new director at Sonoma State. I don't know the person's name. The other guy retired. And the sculpture trails in Cloverdale, you can Google that.
Mhm.
And I don't know if the other art centers are open at the moment, or if anyone's even manning phones at them. But you can try. You can get them all online somehow.
Okay. Thank you,
And
everybody.
so what I'm going to suggest is, Jeff, are you willing to collect the contact information from everybody so that, you know, Maureen, maybe you can email those contact folks to Jeff. I can email you Michael's contact info and anyone else who has contacts.
Yeah, that'd be very helpful if anybody's able to do that. Otherwise, I'll just look up and find what I can.
And maybe we could work on, like specifically what we need to hear from them. I mean, just a specific question, not just, are you interested? So we could work on that maybe by
Sure.
email. Does that sound okay?
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay, thank you. Any other comments on the sculpture garden before we go on to the next item? Okay. The next item is the NedCon update. Anybody have any information?
I do.
Go ahead, Warren.
Well, Caltrans has categorically denied approval of Ned putting work on our bridge. Categorically denied. He says they basically want him to go away. And so he has reached out to Kerry about the Guerneville Bridge, and he's grasping for straws. He's made several other suggestions. The only one I think viable would, if we want to go ahead with him, is to put something along Morris Street in front of Public Works on that sloping lawn, remove the existing sculpture, which is a fish thing that's been there forever. And it would look great there. It's a highly driven street across from community center and council and meeting and so forth. So that would be the only viable alternative that I could see to keep it on city property, which I think is important. The bridge wasn't, but Caltrans did in fact build pedestals for us. So if you wish as a group to discuss this, I can get back to Ned if you want renderings for a future meeting of what it would look like on the bank. I think it could be handsomely landscaped with perennial grasses if the city would allow some drip irrigation along there. So it could be enhanced, it could be attractive. He would put them on poles and the whole thing would be eventually movable if we found a better site in the future. But the other alternative is to have a new call and thank Ned for his hard work for all these years. And he's probably spent the $50,000 on renderings and meetings and driving to Oakland to Caltrans and so forth. So while I'm at it, I've found a wonderful site on Bodega Avenue, but he didn't like it. But I suggest we explore that. It's a city property where they used to put signs for events. And there's a wide open space between the sidewalk and a fence that an entry sculpture would look great on. I'm sorry, Ned doesn't like the site. But
And where on Bodega Avenue is that, Warren?
Bodega Avenue, there's the Regal Ranch Road that goes around in a loop.
Mm-hmm.
And it's across, it's on the south side of Bodega Avenue. It is city property. If you come in from Water Trough Road, there's a city sign and then there's a second city sign. And it just would be east of that second city sign going east on Bodega Avenue. And she's got a map of it right there.
All right, so so thank you, Warren.
So
because you and I met and discussed this.
Anyway, it says 12 on it.
Right, so this is Bodega Highway on the west side of town.
And that's city property, correct? Right there.
Yeah, so this area right in here.
So it's right under the E, the bodega word on your map is where a big open space is. And there's a fence just where that pink line is.
Mm-hmm. Right, so this portion
right in there
is city right of way, I believe.
Right, there's many spaces along there, but one of them would be really a wonderful spot for something.
What about just after or just before the Regal Ranch Road major intersection?
Well,
that's, I think,
basically it's
No, but
along
that's sort of
Bodega
this-
Avenue.
Yeah, this is the area where there used to be signs. You can see that there is a trail, sort of it's just sort of a foot beaten path, I'll say. It's not an official trail, but certainly could be in the future. But there is, it's fairly wide. And it is that western entry to town, going back to our, the public art committee retreat we had a few years ago, talking about, hey, it'd be great to have something that, at the entries to town.
My feeling is that it's more of an actual there entry, either in relation to Regal Road or where the Pleasant Hill or Jewel. Those are kind of more locations to me. All of them on Bodega Avenue.
So over here or over here,
It's too small, can't see.
sorry.
Yeah, I
So
think
where's
This
Jewel?
is
Jewel,
Regal, this is Pleasant Hill, Jewel's
And
all the
Jewel?
way further, much further
yeah,
over.
Jewel is a
Jewel
large
is kind of
intersection.
in the, oh, are you talking about
The intersection, I think that's Jewel. Yeah, right there near the park. There.
where there's that?
No, down, okay, let's see. Bodega, yes, right in there.
Okay, so I will say that this is in the Ives Park master plan. This goes away and it becomes part of the park.
Oh, excellent. But
So-
between, like, say, where the more north, there, where your arrow is, in that area.
So this is the entry, the back entry to the fire station, where their parking, their fire vehicles are.
Yeah, and on Bodega
Yeah.
Avenue there. Warren was talking about Bodega Avenue, which is a major thoroughfare.
Right.
I'm just talking about what's more of a city entrance.
I don't know, this map is jumping all over the place.
Sorry about that. I'm trying to follow where people are talking.
Why
So
don't you
this
just-
is-
Why don't
Ives
you
Park.
just drive out and take a look at Bodega Avenue, everybody, before the next meeting?
I think
It's
that's
so
actually
simple.
an excellent suggestion.
So I'd like to make a comment. First of all, thank you, Arnold.
Warren,
Warren Arnold, sorry, Warren, thank you for your continued communication with Ned, and I also appreciate your proactiveness in continuing to look for some kind of a site for a piece of his work. I guess I'm wondering, I'm disappointed, I'm wondering, were there any specific, I don't know, maybe Kari knows too, are there any specific disagreements that Caltrans had with Ned Kahn? I'm just thinking in terms of our last meeting and some of the things he shared about other pieces that have been installed already next to vehicular roads. So I'm just wondering, I'm ready to try to make some contact with people as a citizen, if necessary, because I just think it's very disappointing that Jada was turned it down like that.
well, I didn't ask him about that, but he has a positive experience with them, and they've done many pieces and with Caltrans. So maybe the bridge is a contentious thing with them. So
Yeah.
what I want to do now is find out, should we proceed, say, with Morris Avenue, if he could come up with a rendering for something there, if he wants to, or move on and have a new call. And I suggest, based on a new call, we pick a site first. So design something for that site. And that's why I suggested Bodega Avenue as a possibility.
I'd like to say that the new site could also be considered for the next commission sculpture, and that thinking about also what Warren was saying about what Ned has put into it and who he is in our community and in the world. I would strongly like to have one of his sculptures as a city sculpture. And if it needs to be on Morris Street, I don't think that's a bad location for it. I'm wondering, are all the parklets that have just been approved, are those all Caltrans? Are any of those a possibility?
There
Well,
are
the one, that-
Caltrans, but they're temporary. They're not a permanent
Ah.
installation.
Or are any of
and
them possible?
Caltrans has already turned down something in that little triangle in front of Screening Mimi's. We approached them years ago about that.
Okay, so right now, the main likelihood is the Morris Street slope.
Well, to be on city land, which I think
Yes.
is important,
Yes.
insurance wise, et cetera, yes, because he has other possibilities, but I think that's the only viable site that would look, he could make his long piece like on the bridge. It could be elevated. It could have more wind effect. And I think landscape is important to go with it. And I know people that could do that if the city can't. But I could get a professional input from a landscape designer I know quite well.
Yeah, I think we've already allocated the money for it. We've already, it's at some
Well,
level
we-
agreed. And I really would urge us to go forward with finally having a sculpture by Ned Kahn for the city.
Okay, well, I agree with that. So now what?
Well, let's hear from Lars and Jeff, and then Jen at some point.
When Ned, this was before my time when all this started, that RFP was wasn't it sort of pick any city property and design a sculpture for? So he looked at every city property probably.
Yes.
Right, sorry, I blinked out there for a while, but you're saying now that the bridge isn't working on Morris. This is the site that Ned wants to do, would be the choice for him.
Actually, it's my choice.
Okay,
He thinks it would look good on the north side of the community center. Well, that's close to, I don't know, the north side of the community center. So I think if it's behind the community center, it'd be lost. I think Morris Street is crying for something.
yeah,
It's really a desolate looking location, and it would be beautiful to be enhanced for the city.
and the location on Morris is where? Sorry, I missed that.
It's where, right in front of Public Works.
Oh.
It bends around to that big water tank,
Yeah, right, yeah,
and it's mostly right along the straightaway across from the parking lot for the community center,
okay.
Where
Yeah,
the fish is
sure.
now.
Right, there's a fish.
where the fish are now, yeah.
Right, okay. No, I mean, overall, I agree with the way Margie said it. Like, I would love to have a piece of his. I think that would be so great. If that's the site that he's interested in and works, I would encourage us to go ahead with that.
Thank
Yeah,
you.
I agree with that as well, that I think it would be vital to have one of Ned's pieces. And I also agree with you, Margie, on trying to consider all the possible city locations that would perhaps have the most visibility and vehicular and or pedestrian traffic. So I want it to be a focal point as much as possible. And so I think that's important that we try to find a site that's available that has those traits to it.
You're saying for Ned's piece or for the next piece? The next round?
Right now, I'm saying for Ned's piece.
Okay.
Are you suggesting a different site, or are you saying that therefore you like the Morris Street site? Or I'm not sure what you're saying.
Well, I think what Warren was saying was that the other Morris at Highway 12 site was one that Ned didn't like. Maybe I got that confused, but closer to Main Street, Highway 12, Bodega Avenue there on Morris Street at that corner,
Ah,
or
Is
near
there-
that corner.
yeah, that's not the bridge. It's just after the bridge, but I don't know if there was any city property that we could use there. There was one we had looked at, and another organization said, no, you can't do that. So Carrie, is there any location?
Sure, so let me just sort of outline, I think, I'll start with where Warren
Yeah,
was
right,
talking
that's
about,
it.
which is right here. One of the interesting things to consider is, this is that sort of that null part of it. But since the city owns both sides, you know, I don't know about crossing over the roadway, but if there were something that was a sculpture that had engaged both sides of it, I think that is also a possibility. Just in terms of flexibility, Warren, as you're talking, if that's kind of the site chosen. We do have, you know, all of this is city property. There's sort of a bridge here though, and this is a very marshy lagoon land. The next city property is the pump station, the sewer pump station, that sort of pyramid building. We will be having an arbor at this location and an entry into the new AmeriCorps Trail that's going to be expanded and formalized down to Highway 12 in this area. And then, yes, the city owns this sort of green outlined parcel is city land. The stuff right at Morris and Sebastopol Avenue is privately owned, so that's not city property. It's also pretty tight along the sidewalk there.
Right. That little panhandle down there, right off of Highway 12 below to your right.
Panhandle, you mean?
Just below your arrow where you were, right there.
Right here?
Yeah.
So this is still Caltrans right of way. Anything that's not in that green thing. We will have the AmeriCorps trail. There will be a multi-use trail that comes up to the sidewalk here and connects in.
Okay.
And that will have an arbor. Now whether that's I'm working on negotiating the conservation easement that's for this parcel that will be required to get the funding for the trail. But I am proposing that we keep things like artwork and sculpture as something that we're allowed to do in that area, because if there's a desire for environmental sculpture in the future. I don't know, you know, what Caltrans would say about this area. I don't think it would be difficult to, you know, have the arbor in this location be an optional thing with the construction contract. So if you know, if this group decides to move forward with a sculpture in this location instead, or some other artistic thing versus sort of wood arbor that's currently planned for it.
And what is there's that, what Jeff called the panhandle, but then there's like a little acute angle at the end of it towards town. No, up. Scratch my back. Okay. No, down. It's, see the panhandle?
Zoom in a little bit.
The armpit of the panhandle.
All right, tell my cursor to go left or right, up or down.
To my left. Now pause and then up a little smidgen. So you're on the other side of that green line. There. What's that?
That's just part of the field where the trail.
So something could go there if it was tall and could be seen.
Yes.
As an option.
Yes.
Okay.
And Carrie,
Isn't there a conservation easement on that?
So this gets into a little complexity. There's a conservation easement on this parcel over here, the Meadowlark Field. I am currently negotiating a conservation easement for this parcel with Ag and Open Space, who we got the grant from to do the trail that'll come through. You know, sort of, it'll come through right around here and then come to and meet the sidewalk. I can hold back and say, yeah, we want the ability to do sculpture, you know, not to be restricted by the conservation easement. So that's what I'm going to propose to them.
So I'd like to intrude a bit. I looked at that site, photographed it, sent it to Ned, and it was not one of the possibilities. You recall, he has been priced out by tariffs and cost of material. And what he's trying to do is give us something with material he had for an Emeryville project that fell through. And so he's not going to have to buy new material. And that's what I understand from his conversation when we had him zoomed in last time. So I would like to look at a long site that the public has visibility for. And I think the Morris Street that you had on previously does have that. He was going to wrap the bridge, which is 300 feet long. So that I'm sure we've got enough material to do that. Yeah. I would like to approach him with that site and perhaps maybe something behind this, the community center, but I'm not sure where that is. If you could drop it down a little bit, drop the map down a
Hold
little.
on, yeah, hold on.
Anyway,
So Warren, are you saying that Ned, you
yeah,
did
he
talk?
said
Okay.
north of the community center, which I don't see
No,
how that's going to work, but
no.
I do see how the Morris Street Public Works is going to work
Mhm.
for him with his,
So Ned,
So-
excuse me, did you say that that Ned definitely was not interested in those other areas, right? That we were just looking at with the little pointer.
that's
moving around?
correct.
Okay, so therefore, it sounds like we should do, go with the flow for Ned and get his sculpture up there.
Yes, I think I'm going to have to meet with him, look at the two sites on Morris, try to have him look at the site that he had not considered. He's considered the old concrete factory, but that's private, also on Morris. And so he's open to that street, to do something on that street. We just have to work with him some more. Get
When you
back to you, try to
When you,
get,
when you say two sites, what was the other one besides the one on the knoll?
the old concrete factory is
Oh.
on Morris. It's privately owned. He thinks
It's-
Barney is part of it. I'm not sure. He said anyway, the old concrete factory is on Morris.
Okay, that's not
But
as
there's-
primary.
Yeah, that's
Not as central.
this, but that's not publicly owned.
Anyway, it's there.
Okay.
And then he said north of the community center. And I'm saying, and he did not say this, the Morris by Public Works. I think is really a great site for him. And we're talking about having the piece that was going to be on the bridge.
So shall I do we need a proposal to have you
Sure.
talk to him about the Morris Street, Manole? To offer him that?
I think it would be good to have consensus of this committee, and, I don't know whether if you all feel comfortable with it, I think that's fine. If you
Okay.
want to, be able to go out and take a look at it. We only have a few minutes left, so.
I would make
if you do want to go with the Morris Street, I need to talk to the rest of the folks in the city to make sure there aren't any red flags on that before Warren, I don't want to Warren and Ned to go through this if there's some reason why that can't happen. So I do want a day or two to check in with them on that.
So for this meeting, I'd like to make a proposal that the Public Arts Committee recommends that Knoll site on Morris Street for the city to look at and to propose then to Ned.
You're making a motion.
Yeah, motion, excuse me.
Okay. I'll second that motion.
Thank you. Okay, so are you gonna take the vote, Carrie, or shall I?
Oh, sure, sorry.
I wanted to speak to that.
Oh,
before-
yeah, sorry, go ahead.
Good. I just want to make sure that there's further discussion, perhaps at the December meeting. I do have some concerns about that site in terms of constraints.
Constraints.
Yes, like Carrie said, there may be some reason why the city wouldn't want it there.
But my motion was to do that first, that we're proposing that and
Yes,
then
and
go
I'm
to
agreeing
Ned.
with that.
Yeah.
I'm just answering Jeff.
Oh, okay, thanks.
Jeff, did you have other concerns about?
No, I just wanted to make sure it's just a proposal. So we're still talking about a conceptual proposal at this
I'm a
point.
motion. I'm making a motion. It was seconded.
Yes, it was. Now we're voting.
All right, so we'll do a vote. Committee member Arnold,
Aye.
committee member Langberg,
Aye.
committee member Strucker,
Aye.
and vice chair Mel Slyson.
Aye.
All right, that motion passes. So I will bring that up to the various city staff. And then if it seems like that's a workable site, I'll let Warren know so that he can. And
Thank
thank
you.
you again, Warren, for all of your communication and ground footwork with Ned. I do appreciate that.
Yeah, thank you, Warren.
Thank you.
Mm.
Okay.
Before we adjourn, can I just say one thing? We were finishing up the sculpture garden piece, and I left there for a minute. I had a few comments / questions. Can I just email those to the group?
Yes,
And we could, so we don't have to take time now.
excellent.
Okay.
I had a question as well, just briefly. I can't remember if in the lottery for artists document, if we included about inviting them to a future meeting, just so we can, as a committee, we can kind of meet and greet, so to speak, and just congratulate them.
Mhm.
Yeah, we did have, I don't know if we had that, but we did have contacting to see if they were interested in displaying artwork in the various public buildings around town. And I think council was very interested in some of the vacant storefronts as well as possibilities. So I think we'll get in contact with them. I do have their names, which I'm happy to. Margie, I don't know if you have the chat since you're the vice chair and led this effort, if you'd like to announce their names to the folks on this group.
Oh, okay. I will announce the names from the chat. Shelley Ray, Stella Monday, I know her photography, James Reynolds. Those are the three.
So congratulations to those three.
And congratulations to those three.
Yes.
Okay, and I do, I realize this isn't on the agenda, so I'll maybe do this in 1 minute under the planning department report. An update on the library art project. We have gotten the engineering drawings and they have been reviewed by our building department, and we are about to issue the building permit for that. Yeah, so real progress being made. He will be installing the blocking into the walls and ceiling at the library needed for that. Interestingly, he needs to have that installed because the hanging points on the exterior of the library are critical to what, before he starts to manufacture the piece, to know exactly where those are. So he'll be doing the blocking, measuring out where those are, and then be proceeding with the final design and manufacturing of the piece, or creation of the piece, I should say.
Thank you. Yeah, mentioning it reminds me that we do have something on Bodega Avenue already, when we talked about trying to do different entrances and different, the north, south, east, west. So we do have something on Bodega Avenue. Okay.
All right.
Anything else? All right.
That is, yeah, everything. Thank you for the one update I had forgotten.
So, and for the agenda for next week, next meeting will be the completion of the artist lottery and going over, hopefully finalizing the 2 documents for the sculpture garden. And a report back from, hopefully from Warren and Carrie regarding Ned's sculpture.
Right.
Anything else?
One other thing I do, the council did discuss the PAC expansion and agreed with the committee's recommendation to not expand it, but to invite volunteers in. So I think at our next meeting, we should also discuss how to do outreach and create that environment to invite. We have the people who had applied for the PAC but were not appointed as potential interested folks, and then also, just if there's a way to do outreach in general to those who might be interested in helping to do some of the footwork for the subcommittees.
And what our criteria would be. Yeah.
Right.
Good.
And I do have one other thing, which is just a quick inquiry on our minutes. I know we are working on different ways of doing the minutes. We have, with the Zoom meetings, we have a transcription service, which gets a lot more detailed. And committee member Strucker, you mentioned that when talking about the minutes today. The other option we have is to simplify them greatly and have them be more what's called action minutes, which is not including a lot of the discussion, but just including, you know, the motions and the direction and decisions the committee is making. I'm curious if any of you have input on that. And of course, if you, like Jen, if she missed this meeting, she can still go and watch the video because the videos are still there to
Yeah.
for the context.
Is there any legality to how minutes are supposed to be produced?
The only requirements are that you have actual actions. So, you know, meeting, you know, attendance, actions that are taken, that are recorded. So they could be like 2 pages for this committee.
Yeah, and then, okay, got it.
And recording votes and those types of things. Those are the only, you don't actually have to have any of the sort of discussion.
Okay. I think if we're recording, we have all the discussion, and if people want to refer back, they can refer back. So I'm all for the more condensed version.
I'd second that.
I'd second, I think it's definitely worth a look.
Okay. Warren, any thoughts on that?
Yes, go.
Okay, so we will do that with these minutes. We'll and you'll see the results of that. And you know, nothing's set in stone, but at least we'll try it. It will certainly help Rebecca with the amount of time it takes to do with the various committees she's got going. So I'm sure she'll appreciate that.
Excellent. Thank you.
Thanks.
All right.
Okay.
Thanks, everybody.
Now, motion to adjourn.
So move.
Second.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Bye.
Meeting adjourned.
Happy Thanksgiving.
Yes.
Thanks. You too.
Thanks, all.
And good luck to us all.
Yeah.
Good
Thank
luck.
you. And thank you
Remember
for
yourself
thank you
to-
for your work.